Okay, so today what I want to show you is a variation on a project that Anne Dilker did in our book, Czech Glass Inspirations. She did a project called a handful of strands, and I think she used a brick stitch and a handmade finding on it. And it was really cool. I want to show you how you can do that in Kumihimo. So what I have here is a mix that was sent to me by JTV, and it's a mix that personally I would have never chosen because I generally don't work with blues and I never work with neon orange. However, it's, the mix that showed up, and the book is all about how to work with these mixes. So I've chosen some size 6/0 Czech seed beads to go with it. I've got Tex 210 Eslan. This is just the blue. And what I hope to do for the Kumihimo braid are the seed beads, and I'm hoping that I have enough of this little druck. So what I'm going to do is put you on hold while I go to look and see if I can find enough of these drucks. Okay, so I've decided that I want to make 2 inches of Kumihimo on each end, and I'm using the standard 8 warp round braid, the little kangagumi. So what I've done is, I know that with a size 6 seed bead, I need approximately 6 beads to the inch. So for 2 inches, I need 12 beads. And I'm going to put those on, actually these are the drucks. So for the drucks, I need 12 times 2, 24 on each end of the braid. So I have a second end of the braid. I need 48 total beads. On the seed beads, I have 12 beads per 2 inches. I have them on 6 warps. So I need 72 seed beads on each end, and then the other end times 2 means I need 144 of those. The seed beads aren't an issue because I had a whole hank of those, but the drucks were the issue. I had to make sure that I had 48 total drucks. So what I've done is I've taken my 4 1-yard pieces of Eslan, and I just start with yard pieces for necklaces. You can use more or less, figure them out however you want. I just start with a yard. Unless I'm using a big bead, I might use more. So what I did was I loaded 24 beads on each end, and I take 5, 10, 12 of them and slide them down to the other end, which has a stopper bead on it. And that gives me 3 ends with seed beads and 1 with drucks. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold these cords in half. Of course, I've got them tangled. And then I'm going to tie them in the center with a piece of Eslan. And then I'm going to load them onto my Kumihimo disc. And you know what? I'm going to load the disc and then show you how I load it. When you're shooting these things by yourself without a camera operator, it's kind of hard to keep everything in the frame. So it was easier for me to just load this without showing you. But what I've done is I've taken the thread and I've just stuck it in the center of the board. And I've loaded 1 on each side of the positioning dots because I'm going to do the kangagumi braid. And I've put the drucks here and here. Now, you can put the drucks anywhere you want as long as they are diagonally opposite for each other in order to get the pattern that I'm going to work. Meaning I could have put the drucks here and here or here and here. It just doesn't matter. You want them diagonally opposite each other. So what I'm going to do is work the nub, and then I'm going to work the beads, dropping them in. So for those of you who don't know this braid, or you're just wondering which one it is, it's the one that goes, one goes up, the one beside it comes down, and turn it. Let's get that bead out of there. Up, down, and turn. So I'm going to put you on hold until I get the nub, and then I'll show you how to drop beads in it. Okay, so you can see I've made about 1/4 inch of braid, and that's the unbeaded portion of the braid, which will fit into the end cap. So now what I'll do is show you how to drop a bead for those of you who don't know, but I think most of you do. Let's see if I can back this out a little bit. There we go. All right, so drop a bead, tuck it under the first of the warps that it crosses, and then just put the warp in its new notch at home. Same thing here, just slide it into the hole, tuck it under the first, and then turn to the next set. So it's always just slide it, tuck, slide it, tuck, turn to the next set. So I'm going to finish working this, and then I'll come back and show you what I've got. Okay, so this is one of those instances where 6 beads to the inch doesn't prove to be true, because I have more like 3, maybe 3.5 inches of beads here, but that's okay because I can adjust it as I go along. What I want to do now that I finished putting all of the screaming orange in that are broken up by a little bit of the tranquil blue is I want to pop it off the board, and I don't want to lose my tension. So what I'm going to do is pull it down to the bottom of the board, and I may have to release some cording here so I can pull that far enough. I want to pull it far enough that I can take a bead stopper and actually put all 8 of the warps. If you have a larger bead stopper, it's fine. I tend to like these little ones. They don't get in my way when I'm working. Just kind of get all 8 of those cords in that stopper, which is a little trickier than it might seem because it's a small one. All right, just pull that in. Only happens when you're on camera, you know? All right. There we go. And I'm just going to grab, actually that's only one that's out, so that's okay. Now what I'm going to do is just pull it off the board. Now, you might ask, why did I use so many orange beads in the braid if I don't like the orange? And the reason is because if you look at this mix, it's mostly blue. There's some orange in it, but this is blue and green, but it's mostly orange. So what I thought I would do is, because I'm going to do a random build on this, just make the orange prominent in here because the blue is probably going to be prominent in the bottom line. And what I'm going to do is now load each one of the 8 cords with the same number of inches of beads. I'm just going to pick these up randomly. And this looks like it's 3 inches, so 3 inches on the other end is 6. I want some of this to show. I don't want this to be behind my neck. So if I want a total 12-inch braid showing in the front, I'm going to finish it with chain. I'm going to do 6 inches of beads on each of these warps. So let me put you on hold one more time, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do. Okay, so you can see I've got 6 inches of beads. Now, the ones I had to kick out of the strand, these were leftover as I laid it out with 6. It ended up being too much, and there was a reason for that. And one is I thought that this bead was going to string this way when in fact it strung this way, so that took up more space. This particular style had a hole that was too small to fit through the Tex 210, and this guy was red, and I really didn't want to put that in because with the blue, the orange, and the green, and the fact that this is going to be sort of a complicated piece to begin with, or a sophisticated piece, I didn't want to add that other color. So I've got 4 on here, or 6 inches on here, and that's all I want. What I'm going to do is slide that all the way up, and I'm going to get another bead stopper, which is over here in this drawer, I think. And I'm going to put it on that end so I can hold that taut, because again, I don't want the braid at the other end to start coming unbraided. Now what I'm going to do is release one more warp from up here and do the exact same thing. I'm going to put 6 inches of beads and keep doing that times the 8 strands that I have. So I'm going to put you on hold again. So here's my second 6-inch strand, and again I'm going to snug it up as much as I can for right now. Take another bead stopper and put it there. Now I'm just going to keep doing this with the remaining 6 6 warps, and then I'll come back and show you what I've got. Okay, so I've got all 8 of my my strands strung with 6 inches of beads. Now when Gail did hers, she did graduated sizes, graduated lengths. We don't want to do that with ours because we have twisted cords coming off the end of our braid, where she had straight parallel cords coming off hers, and we're going to end up with twisted on this end again. Now before I put this back on the board, what I want to do is repeat my my seed beads and drucks on these. So 2 of them are going to get 12 drucks, and the other 6 are going to get 12 of the seed beads. Then I'm going to put it back on the board, and I'll show you when I do that. Okay, so now I'm ready to load these back onto my Kumihimo disc. And if I were using one of the newer boards with a 35mm hole, there's a chance that I could fit these, you know, from the top down, like pull this up and put it in this way. But since I'm using the older, smaller board, I'm just going to bring the warps up through the hole, and I'll worry about loading those. Now, when I load these, right now I'm just going to load them in any order, and then I'll make sure that I've got my my drucks opposite one another. And the drucks don't have to be in the same spot that they were the last time. Again, they just have to be across from each other. Alright, so we got those loaded. Now what I have to do is pull the beads, the seed beads. Okay, what happened there? Somebody is caught on the handle. There we go. So the seed beads need to be hanging down on the outside. Just take your time and pull them up. So you want all the seed beads hanging over the edge of the outside of the board. Alright, so now that I've got these sort of started, I can take these off. These bead stoppers can start coming off. But you don't want to bring them off until you've got the beads, all of the warps back on the board. Okay, let's get these seed beads up. These are drucks. Okay, now all of these guys have to go down below the center hole. And I like to keep those beads right at the top of the center hole to start. Now I need to see where my drucks are placed. I've got a druck here, so my other one needs to be over here. And where is it really? It's here. So this one has to come out and trade places with this one. Just to make sure we've got drucks. Got drucks on this one, and I should have drucks. Nope, these two are backwards. So once again, I just want to make sure that my drucks are opposite each other. So I have drucks here and here. I've got all of the beads pull it to the top. I want to work one round with no beads just to pull this whole thing back together again. Besides which, I can't drop a bead in here because there's no warp for me to tuck it under. So just do one round of your braid, keeping these beads right at the top, the inside of your hole. Push them down. Okay. Alrighty. It's a little wonky to get started with, but now I can actually start to do the braid again. These guys need to be down below there. Go down, go down, go down. All right. So I can start, this guy should be below the hole. There we go. This would be a little bit easier on that that board with the 35mm hole, but I can still do it. So I'm just going to drop him, make sure he tucks under the one he's crossing over. Drop him in the hole, bring him over, snug him up a little bit. Whoops, not so much that it pops though. You want to keep it under the warp that it's crossing. Okay, just keep turning the board. All you're doing right now is working the standard braid. Tuck him under, go under. I didn't put the bobbins back on, so my beads are a little bit far down on the warps. It takes me a little bit longer to slide them up into place. There we go. There's one. So you can see as you work it, it starts to tighten up and begins to look like the point of braiding that you know and love. Just keep working that. I don't have a weight on it. I'm just kind of holding it on the bottom of the board with my fingers. I do that a lot. Do one more of these for you. So now all I'm going to do is keep working the braid, and when I get that done, I'll show you what it looks like. And now I've got it off the board. I've removed the bead stopper that was there, and now all I have to do is whip this end, and I'll use 3mm crimps because the Tex 210 makes a 3mm braid, and then I'll finish it with chain to put behind the neck. I'm not quite sure if it looks like the fruit salad or just a party, but anyway, that's a Czech mix in a project that I tend to think of as braid, no braid, braid. And I hope you'll give it a try. It's a lot of fun. Thanks.